know why more people aren't talking about this? Over 70% of Americans are in debt and living paycheck to paycheck.
Guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be talking about the debt. Why it's not fair to have it, what is going on, and we're going to be talking about this all the video. So guys, please like, share, subscribe, and let's dive into the video and watch.
Debt is only bad if you buy bad things with it. You always hear the term, get out of debt, don't have debt, it's bad, you'll go bankrupt and all the rest of it. But then you look at some of the largest companies and the most wealthy people in the world, and they just carry a huge amount of debt. And you go, well, if debt is bad, then why do the wealthiest people in the world carry so much of it? But what we're often not taught, and the lesson that I got from Robert Kiyosaki, is that debt is not created equally. You have good debt and you have bad debt. The difference between good debt and bad debt is that bad debt is tied to bad things like liabilities, right? So if you've got debt like credit cards or personal loans, etc., for things that depreciate in value, you don't get tax benefits out of them, that is bad debt, and that's the debt you should run the other direction from. Whereas good debt is tied to assets. Assets are things that appreciate in value, the government gives us tax concessions on, and it's debt that often devalues over time. And what I mean by devalues over time is that as asset values get more expensive, the same level of debt becomes less relative. And if I use the example, we had $1.5 million of debt, which was tied to $2 million worth of assets, and we had $500,000 worth of equity. We still had $1.5 million worth of debt 10 years later, but the asset value was no longer $2 million, it was $4 million. And all of a sudden, that $1.5 million of debt doesn't seem so relative anymore because the assets that it's tied to are $4 million, which essentially means it's less than 50% of the value is debt. Whereas 10 years prior, when it was $1.5 million of $2 million worth of assets, 75% of your asset value was tied to debt. So over time, if the debt is tied to assets and those assets appreciate in value, even if you don't pay any of the debt off, it just becomes less and less relative. And that's essentially because of a multitude of reasons. As the governments print more money, asset values inflate, which means your debt level deflates. But essentially, all you need to know, debt is not created equally. So the way to know whether it's a good debt or a bad debt is to go, well, is the debt tied to something which increases in value, which generates me money, which gets tax concessions, or is the debt tied to something that costs me money, decreases in value over time, like a car, for example, doesn't give me any tax concessions, and is actually a liability on my personal balance.
Burned to the ground over 100 days ago, and I'm still $50,000 in debt for it. Hi, my name is Branson, and this is day 40 of asking General Motors and GMC to buy me a new truck after the truck I bought on January 11, 2025 burned to the ground, and not this position, but another position back home from an engine fire with just 42,000 miles on it, with all of my construction equipment, is what we should call it, for my asphalt ceiling company, all of my personal use equipment, and all the things I used to have fun was within that truck. Now, as an 18-year-old recent graduate, full-time RVer, and an 18-year-old, I'm struggling. And not only am I struggling, but I have no way to operate my business, so it's going under. Not only that, but I can't pull my RV as a full-time RVer. Well, it should be right here is what I'm thinking. But it's not, because it's stuck in a field where it continues to flood and get about 6 inches of water under it. And now I come to TikTok, and I ask TikTok for help. Can you help me by tagging, sharing, and liking this with 3 friends, General Motors and GMC? Tell me get this out there to the people that needs to see it. But not only to help me get this out there to the people that needs to see it, but to maybe get my insurance, my service contract, my warranty, my financial institution, and my gap insurance to pay my truck off and get me the $50,000 out of debt so that I don't have a $1,000 truck payment. And maybe I could buy a new truck. And for the ones of you who say, well, just go buy a new truck. Well, I wish it was that easy, but paying $1,000 for a truck that you don't have, you can't really afford to go spend another $1,000 a month on a truck that you already don't have one of. So I can't do that. So can you help me by tagging, sharing, and liking this with 3 friends, General Motors and GMC? Thank you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on day 41. Goodbye, guys.
Let's speak plainly. National debt is a lie. Not in the conspiratorial sense, not in the way grifters whisper about hidden cabals or globalist plots. No, it's worse. It's systemic. It's accepted. It's taught, and it's utterly meaningless. Let's take it from the top. What is debt? Debt is a promise, a quantified agreement that something will be returned with interest. It only functions in a context of scarcity, when the resources being promised are rare, when the act of exchange is a matter of survival or opportunity. That's the origin. But we don't live in that world anymore. Not materially, not technologically, not energetically. We live in a world where the capacity to produce what people need, food, housing, energy, medicine, is no longer bottlenecked by human labor or raw material limits. It's bottlenecked by policy, by permission, by intent. We don't grow less because we can't. We grow less because we've decided some people shouldn't have enough. And debt is the language that excuses that decision. So when you hear a politician say, we can't afford universal health care, or there's no money for public housing, remember this. We had no money during the Great Depression either. And yet, the moment war was declared, we mobilized steel, oil, logistics, and labor at a scale never seen before. Not because we found the money, but because we found the will. Jacques Fresco pointed out clearly, the capacity existed. The resources were there. The story changed, and with it, the machinery moved. This is what Enlightenment socialism exposes. That civilization isn't built on money. It's built on coordination. The real economy is not Wall Street. It's not the bond market. It's not central banks. The real economy is the food in your fridge, the power in your walls, the time in your day. It is infrastructure, energy, access, not digits. Let's get clearer. National debt is not like personal debt. Nations are not households. They don't balance checkbooks. They issue their own currency, control their own supply chains, and decide through legislation what to fund and what to withhold. So when a government says it's broke, that's not an economic fact. That's a political decision. And here's the thing, nobody even expects national debts to be paid off. They're not meant to be paid. They're meant to be managed indefinitely, rolled over, reissued, used as collateral to demand austerity from the public while the private sector gets bailed out. It's not an obligation. It's a lever. But levers only work if people believe in them, and that belief is what's breaking now. Because in a post-scarcity trajectory where automation decouples labor from survival, where energy becomes renewable and decentralized, and where material abundance becomes a design problem, not a production one, debt becomes a joke. You don't need a mortgage for a 3D printed house made of local biomaterials. You don't need a loan for education when the entire corpus of human knowledge can be accessed without gatekeepers. You don't need to finance a car when your city provides transit as a right. So why are we still pretending debt is real? Because it justifies the withholding of access. It lets systems say, we could feed you, house you, free you, but you haven't earned it yet. It lets people in power act as if the ledger matters more than the living. But here's the Enlightenment socialist response. The ledger is not sacred. Life is. The purpose of civilization is not to balance accounts. It's to liberate consciousness, to create the conditions for self-authorship, dignity, and flourishing. And any system that says your child can't receive medicine because of an abstract deficit is not a system. It's a cage. Now, let's address the common refrain. If we erase debt, won't the system collapse? Of course it will, because it's a system designed to collapse the moment it can't extract. That's the point. You don't patch a failing parasite, you replace it. Debt cancellation isn't radical, it's overdue. It's the reset button that history has pressed before, through jubilees, through revolutions, through collapses we romanticize after the fact. But now, we can do it without collapse. We can do it with intention. Because the tools exist. Because the labor exists. Because the energy flows. And because no equation, no spreadsheet, no debt ceiling matters more than the breath in your lungs and the food on your table. The next civilization won't ask what you owe. It will ask what you need. And it will provide, not out of charity, but out of alignment with the truth that you are not a debtor to be managed. You are a life to be supported. That's not utopian. That's engineering. That's philosophy. That's what comes after the illusion dies. Debt is not real, but your time is. Your mind is. Your potential is. So let's stop letting fiction define the future and start designing a world where truth sets the terms.
My wife and I were paying off $114,000 worth of debt. There were 5 stages that we went through. Anybody else I know who's paid off debt has gone through these 5 stages as well. We were broke at a Macy's and we were maxing out 2 different credit cards because we didn't know how else to pay for the sheets and pillowcases that we needed for the new bed that we put on credit. It was in that moment that I knew I was part of the problem. I just didn't know how to help fix it. But I knew that something had to happen. Les Brown said, people change their life when they get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we were sick and tired of being broke, but not really until that moment. So that was the trigger. So once we knew that we wanted to pay off the debt, you had to ask yourself why. And that's step 2. For my wife and I, we knew that we wanted to have a family. We knew that we wanted to travel, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to do that in the current situation that we were in. So that became the beacon that we were running towards. I remember sitting on the floor of our dining room and telling my wife, I can't do this without you. We have to do this together. And then when we were making our first budget, I asked a friend of mine to come over. I bought him a case of beer and had him come over and actually walk me through making our first budget. We started telling our family and friends what we were doing because we wanted them to know why we were making the choices that we were making. And so we found that support. Because it's one thing to have support from your significant other, from your pastor, from your parents, but other people around you, knowing that that's supporting you, that community, that was important to us. So once we knew what we were doing, we knew why we were doing it, and we knew who we were doing it with, now we needed to know how. And that was the budget and the debt payoff plan. If you don't have a plan for your debt payoff, it's going to cost you a lot of time and it's going to cost you a lot of money. The way that my wife and I paid off debt, which was the debt snowball method, if we had just paid minimums, it would have taken us like 13 years to pay off our debt. But instead we did it in 26 months. And step 5 is one of those that you hate hearing, but it's the absolute truth. And that is you have to do it. So the last piece is actually doing it. It's actually executing on that plan and then staying with it, which is why you need the support and why you need the motivation of your why. Your story is worth fighting for. So I hope that you go fight for it. I took these 5 steps and I put them into an ebook that I'm selling for free. I mean, you can pay whatever you want. The link is in my bio. Stay curious.
First lies you hear when you move abroad, especially the UK, is that you must begin to buy this and that on credit so that you can build your credit scores. Unfortunately, people often end up building a wall and a gate around their own open prison than building any credit score. Because you see, as a people, everybody always claim that they know the difference between good and bad debt. But practically, we really don't know the difference. It's a new system to most people, and you can buy everything on credit. Even when they tell you that it is an interest rate free arrangement, trust me, you are still the one losing. Because this is what happens. The idea is to move the money away from your own account to their own account. So even if they get it now in 3 months time, they are still getting your money. So you go to a website, you want to buy a shirt that you need, but because you know that you are going to be paying 3 times, then you pick a sneakers, you pick a socks, you pick an underwear. So you can appear self all gack up and everything you are wearing from head to toe, including your underwear, is on credit. Just because you know that you are going to pay in 3 months time. So the money that you are yet to work for, you've already spent it, and they can be removing it. You know, it doesn't harm you now. It's just some 30-something pounds every month. But by the time you begin to calculate the fact that your car is on credit, your life is on credit, and you just came back from Albania or Morocco on credit, then you begin to see why people then work 60 hours, 70 hours a week, just because even the money that you are yet to make, you are spending it on credit. I understand that people are going to throw tantrums, you know, as per usual on this one, because you know someone has built their life around credit and is working. It's just that it's an open prison, so they cannot notice. So they are working hand to mouth, month to month, summer to summer, winter to winter. In fact, on my last video, one came and said, "Oh, you that you are working on the road, you don't even have a car. You are talking about money. Go and buy a car first." See, I'm not talking to people like that. I'm talking to people that have a head and they are using it. That try as much as possible. Remove debt away from your life. Buy what you need and you can truly afford. And you begin to know that yes, if you are going to go on credit, let it be things that, you know, they are bringing money to your pocket, assets. But other than that, run away from this debt as much as you can, and you begin to see the difference in your life. Because then you will not be compelled to work more. You know, you will be more relaxed. And then you can even have some time to be able to think and develop yourself to then go and make real money. Because you see, this debt will trap you. So do something different. Because you see, if you gather 100 people and 90-something% are doing the same thing, yet all of them are complaining about money, complaining about the same thing, why not think of something different and say, you know what, since you people are doing this thing and you are getting the same result, I don't want to do it. After all, they said that doing the same thing and expecting a different result is what a mad person should be. You are not a mad person. Use your head. Run from debt.
Thank you for your likes, guys, and let's continue watching the videos. I do appreciate
Why more people aren't talking about this? Over 70% of Americans are in debt and living paycheck to paycheck. But people come on here flaunting their designer bags, lavish vacations, and act like this isn't a reality that a lot of Americans are struggling with. When I go to the malls are packed, and a lot of people aren't talking about this. When I've come on here and shared how you should be honest with your friends and encourage your friends to be healthy, to get out of debt, to budget, I've gotten attacked, which is crazy because this is the reality that we live in. And it made me think, if we don't accept our current circumstances, then nothing will ever change. If we don't accept that, hey, maybe I have been living paycheck to paycheck and I either don't make a good income or I'm reckless with my money, then things are going to keep staying the same. Especially with the new year coming around where everyone's like, new year, new me, I want to make more money, goals and all of that. I would start thinking about how you can do that now. But the first step is facing the reality and accepting where you are.
I'm going to tell you one simple sentence that will get debt collectors off their back immediately. Go ahead and save this video so you can come back to it if you need to. You don't need to argue and you don't need to explain yourself. You simply say this: I do not consent to verbal communication. Validate this debt in writing, including the original agreement. Otherwise, cease all collection efforts. Then hang up the phone. You can also tell them to give you the full payment history and the chain of custody. Now, if you're wondering why this works, it's because of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. You have the right to demand validation, and until they provide it, they must stop badgering you. Most of them cannot and will not validate the debt. I hope this helps.
The best method for paying off debt, bar none, is the debt snowball method, where you list out your debts from smallest to largest balance, ignoring the interest rate, and you attack the smallest one with every extra dollar you can find and make minimum payments on the rest. What happens here is you knock out debts faster and you free up payments along the way, which gives you psychological momentum to keep going and get through it. Once you're finally debt-free, you'll have way less stress and way more margin for saving, giving, and
I love my patients. I love the people that I work with. I love medicine in general. I love the constant learning. I love who I am as a doctor. I love providing people value, helping enrich people's lives, education, all that stuff. I hate insurance companies that don't allow me to practice medicine the way that is better for patients. Like, my patients need a medication, I can't get it for them because of insurance. I hate hospital institutions who don't pay doctors what they're worth, and yet CEOs continue to have increased salaries, administration continues to have increased salaries, and doctors continue to have decreased pay with the increased amount in school loans. Not enough support staff, not enough nurses, not enough MAs, not enough supplies, not enough PPE. I do have job security. I have my education to fall back on. Would I have been able to do this in any other field? Possibly. I think I would have been just as happy being a teacher, because that's a lot of what I do now. I educate my patients on healthy lifestyle habits. Would I be the same person without medical education or medical training? I don't know. And so that's the part that I'm just like, I love who I am now. I love the confidence that I have. I love the fact that I have knowledge in order to analyze data, to learn on my own so that I can think for myself and not rely on the opinions of others. I love that sense of autonomy. Is it worth $351,000 and feeling like I'm being crushed by the system and not being able to get out? I don't know. I can't give you a straight answer. I'm just crossing my fingers and someone hacks this whole thing and then my school loans disappear, manifesting. But yeah,
You want to know what's so funny? I posted a video the other day talking about the fact that I'm 26 years old and I'm in $95,487.73 worth of debt, majority of that being student loans. And the response from people is just absolutely wild. And I'm sitting here responding to comments of people shaming me, and they're trying to wonder how it even got to this point. They're trying to put me down, saying I'm never going to pay it off. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I went to school, did what I had to do to become a nurse to help people, and people were shaming me for doing that. I went to school to get a career where I can better people's lives, save lives, and I'm being shamed for the way that I had to do it. I put myself in a financial burden to go get a degree, to help people, to save lives, to better people's lives, and I'm being shamed for the way that I had to do it because I didn't have mommy and daddy paying for my college. I had to take out student loans. You don't even realize how bad student loans can get, because in the moment when tuition is due, all you're thinking about is making that tuition date and paying the tuition. So you just sign. That's how it gets to where it is. You just sign because you have to do what you have to do in that moment in order to accomplish your goals. And that's what I did. And I'm being shamed for that. Y'all are shaming a nurse, okay, for doing what she had to do in order to help people. That's crazy.
This is paying $84,000 in student loan debt. So let's make a payment together. I got paid $427 from the TikTok reward program, and we're gonna make a $400 payment. Hi, I'm Yelly, and if you're new around here, I am your simplifying bestie, and I teach you how to declutter and simplify your life around here. For years, we have been consumer debt free, no cars, no credit card, no nothing debt, but we have the one last debt that is my husband's private student loan for flight school. So at the beginning of June, after so many years of just trying to survive basically under one income, we are finally able to start making a dent into that debt. And since July or June 1st, we have been able to pay down $4,000, and we are finally about to hit the 70s. So this is the current balance as of right now. And we successfully just made a payment of $400. I did make $427 from the Creator Reward program for this month, but I'm running it down just to save a little cushion for taxes. I either make money from social media by the rewards program or affiliate links or brand deals or my templates that I sell online to declutter your life. But since we got that paid today, I made sure to make the payment, and now we are officially under $80,000 worth of debt, which makes it almost $5,000 that we have been able to pay off in a month and a half. We do have baby 4 coming soon, so we're gonna probably have to slow down.
Thanks for watching video with me, guys, about the debt that is in fair. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Please like, share, subscribe. I'm done for today, guys. Be safe and bye for now.